Hello. I wanted to share with you lecture notes for Chapter 5 and 6. I don't know that I'll get them all done in one set with one YouTube video. I will try my best. Uh, I'm just going to go over the notes that are also listed in the link in Angel, the folder for Chapter 5 and 6. What is the hardest thing for you guys to manage? Time, energy, or money? We've obviously talked about that, but this is part of our review tonight. We're going to talk about some time management strategies to maximize your time to read assigned materials, chapters, as well as to study and to prepare for an upcoming class. First of all, it is a good idea to set aside small chunks of time. I recommend 30 to 60 minutes at a time. You can go as little as 30. Actually, you can go as little as 15 if you want to, but you won't get much done in 15 minutes. 30 minutes to 60 minutes. You can even set a timer. In the old days, when I taught in the early childhood classroom, and before we had some of the technology that we have today, I used just a kitchen timer, and I would set the timer and give my students a certain amount of time to, get something done. Be sure you prepare for class by reading the materials before class, which will definitely benefit you in class because the material will make much more sense because you have read it and prepared ahead of time and gone over it. Use highlighters to identify main ideas. Type notes or write out notes. You can do it either way. I will say that I tend to remember things that I write down. However, I am a visual learner, and I do tend to be more of the reading, writing learner as well, so that works for me. But it can work for you as well. Sometimes kinesthetic learners could benefit from creating flashcards, and which would be obviously writing something down. Give yourself time, T-I-M-E, to learn the way that works best for you. So we're talking about time management as far as reading. Our title for Chapter 5 is Reading to Learn. And obviously, reading college textbooks are much more challenging than reading novels or magazines that you would read for pleasure. College textbooks are full of concepts, terms, or vocabulary, complex information, and you are expected to learn much more from the college textbook on your own and in a shorter period of time than you were, say, in high school. Some active reading strategies. There are 4. The first one is previewing. Then we've got marking and highlighting. That's the second one. Number 3 is reading with concentration. And number 4 is reviewing. So I'm going to start out by going through previewing. Previewing is something that I worked on, like I said, as an early childhood teacher. Previewing is a strategy that we try to work with even at that age to try to get children to better understand how to comprehend what they're reading. So think of previewing as browsing in a newly remodeled store. First, you have to get orientated with the new layout. In this case, you would have to get orientated with the organization of the material and the content in the textbook. You need to look and get the big picture. For textbooks, read about the author, the author's biographical sketch. In this particular book, our College Success book, one of our authors talks about that what led him to write this book or to participate in the writing of this book was the fact that he had trouble with getting off to a good start in college. Read the preface. The preface is a brief overview of the beginning of the book. The foreword is an endorsement of the book written by someone else. The introduction reviews the book's overall organization, and its contents are often organized by chapters. Now, most of your college textbooks have those things in them. Also, as you're looking through the material that you're going to be reading, say you're taking history class, psychology, sociology, Of course, math and science textbooks are a little bit different, and we'll talk about that also. But first of all, identify main ideas. Make connections to what you already know. Read learning objectives. Typically those textbooks, your content textbooks, have learning objectives. Go to the end of the chapter and read the summary. Go back to the beginning of the chapter and skim over the chapter, paying attention to the headings and subheadings, key terms or the vocabulary, tables, figures, diagrams, charts, etc. Look at any study exercises and questions at the end of the chapter. Note how many pages in the chapter and decide in advance how many pages you can reasonably cover in a given study period. I used to discourage my students in early childhood from, how many pages have I got to read? Well, in this case, it's saying look at your chapter and decide how much time you can devote to the chapter. Maybe if it is a long chapter, you need to divide it up into 2 study sessions. Depending on your interest, the prior knowledge that you have in the subject, different types of textbooks can require more or less time to read. If you really enjoy science and reading about weather, for example, that's a topic in the science book, you might not have as much trouble reading that content because it's interesting to you. Anything that's more interesting to us, we're not going to have as much trouble to do. Alright, some strategies for previewing, in addition to what we've talked about, is in our book we have some maps there. One of them is called a wheel map and a branch map. There is another one that I have used that is like a web. We also call these maps graphic organizers. It's a visual guide for how different concepts fit together. And like I said, the textbook shows 2, a wheel map and a branch map in Chapter 5. There is, on page 100, there is a sample of how to outline or list notes, the headings and subheadings of the chapters. This is something that will help you as you study and try to understand and comprehend what's in what you have to read. And I talked about listing. Listing is putting things in groups of 5, 7, or 9, and groups are chunks. I'll talk more about that in just a minute when I talk about short-term memory. Create flashcards. Flashcards will help you with terminology, vocabulary. I mentioned in class tonight that if you were in the nursing program, you would have a lot of terms, a lot of terminology, medical terms, and that's one good way to help you learn the material in the chapter. Again, marking and highlighting, and there is an example in the textbook on page 102, figure 5.4. It is another way to help you concentrate as you read. Once again, the activity there shows you how someone used highlighters. They used a pen to mark in the margins. They numbered things in the book. That's just one way to help you understand and comprehend and concentrate on what you are reading. A list of things that you can do to help you concentrate better as you read the list is on the next page, and I don't have that open right now, but it's written out in more detail in the book. But the activity in Angel, you're supposed to look at that list and decide which one is the hardest for you and explain why. Now, you folks that were not in class tonight, I hate to tell you, but you've got to do that in Angel this week. The folks that were in class did it in class. That's one of the benefits of being in class. Let me find that page. It is on page 104 and the top of 105. Reading with concentration. If you'll look at the bulletin statements there, they're in bold print. Consider the time of day, energy level, interest in material, study location, mute or power off electronics, set goals for study period, and engage in physical activity during breaks or study breaks. Focus on important portions of the text. Understand the words by using the glossary or dictionary. Use organizers as you read. And that's the first activity that's listed in Angel. And those of you that were in class tonight do not have to do that. We did it together. But if you did not attend class, you need to tell me the one that is the hardest for you and explain why. So if energy level is a hard thing for you, say energy level and explain why. The next thing we need to do that will help us in understanding and comprehending the text that we're reading, as well as to concentrate on what we're reading, is reviewing. Review by looking through your assigned reading materials again before testing or other types of assessment. Use your notes, handouts, outlines. Use the highlighted notes, the marking that you made, flashcards, etc. to help you review. Use your senses. Recite aloud. Make diagrams, outlines, maps, etc. that you can post either in a notebook or, this says, suggest in the living area where you are, so that you can see those things and constantly be to remember them. I'm going to have to stop right here, and I will continue the rest of Chapter 6 and Chapter 7 on the next YouTube.